Okay, let's talk through some important settings for your WordPress site. And they're in settings. And let's just go through these in turn over the coming videos. So let's start with general. Okay, so a lot of this is pretty self-explanatory. General settings for your site. This is the title of your site. So this is my demo site, for demos. So I put fordemos.com, or I could instead put the name for demos. But let's take it back to fordemos.com. So this could be your business name or just your website address. And you can see it appears there in the title. So if I visit the site, which is currently blank, there it is. It appears in the title, and it also appears in other places depending on the theme you're using and particular customization options you may have applied. Okay, so let's go back. Settings general. Okay, so you can have a tagline or not. This is optional. So let's just say, you could just delete it, but I'm just going to say this is my demonstration site. Okay, let's save that. Let's take a look now. So there we go, you see the title has changed. And with plugins, you can have a lot more flexibility about the text that appears in the title here and also other places on the site, but without any plugins installed and running, this is by default how the title looks. And the title, of course, you may not pay much attention to it when you're looking at a website like this, but when you search for something online, for example, I've just searched for Microsoft, the Microsoft website, this is the title. So it appears in the search results and gives a lot of context and can also be enticing, entice people to click through. So if I visit that page quickly, so let's remember that, Microsoft official homepage. Okay, we're there, so let's look at the title, and there it is. It doesn't always, maybe occasionally the title doesn't match 100% what appears in Google, but generally it does. Okay, so we're back in settings and general. So WordPress URL, WordPress address, URL in brackets. Okay, this is pretty self-explanatory as well. Generally, it's your site address. And the biggest question is, well, you may have installed WordPress in a folder, so it could, for example, be mywebsite.com/WordPress, or perhaps /blog, or perhaps you've installed it on a subdomain, and the subdomain is, well, if www.mywebsite is the main domain, the main web address, a subdomain is this part. So the www, what is the default domain, if that's included. Like for example, okay, what I'm trying to say is blog.mywebsite.com, that's a subdomain of mywebsite.com. So in many ways, even though it's very strongly attached to the main site, it can be often treated as an entirely separate site, or a somewhat separate site at least, or WordPress.mywebsite.com, or whatever it may be. That's a subdomain. And you may notice many businesses have their blog at blog.companyname. For whatever reason, they prefer to put it there. Sometimes because the blog has quite a different design to the main company website, so this is one way of doing it, and maybe just to keep things separate. It has been said, however, that there's search engine optimization, search engine traffic benefits to keeping your blog on your main website rather than on a subdomain. But there's pros and cons to consider there, and it's actually an important decision. So before you really start blogging and building up your site, you want to give that careful thought. Okay, so I would say the biggest question though generally is www. or no www. So currently it's for demos.com. I prefer, maybe just because I'm old-fashioned, I prefer www. So that means if someone goes to my website without typing in the www, they get automatically redirected to that. Okay, so site address, as it says here, enter the address here if you want your site homepage to be different from your WordPress installation directory. Okay, so what this means is WordPress address is where WordPress is actually installed. Site address is what people see when they actually visit WordPress, and this can get a little bit advanced. For example, if you've decided to install WordPress in, let's say, mywebsite.com/WordPress, but you don't want people to see that. You want people to, to experience your WordPress setup, your WordPress site, but only at the main website. So you can do that by specifying it here. Okay, so I'll come back to that in just a moment. But so not to get too sidetracked. Okay, so let's say you're keeping things simple. You've installed WordPress in the root at the base of your main website, and that's what you'd like people to see. So I'm going to have the www. So, and actually, sorry, just one more consideration. Sometimes websites these days start with HTTPS, which means HTTP secure. And if you're not sure, ask your web host or whoever's managing your website. So if you want every single page of your site to be secured, you would generally set up HTTPS. But again, this is getting a little bit advanced, and this is meant to be a crash course introduction rather than a deep dive into some of these more advanced topics. So let's just leave it as default. So http://www.4demos.com, and I'm going to copy that and make sure, put it there. Okay, so that's how I generally have my sites. So now if I save that, okay, it's logged me out because the address has changed from, well, the www has appeared, which makes it a different address. I need to log back in. Okay, I'm back in, so back to settings and general. Okay, so again, just to touch upon very quickly, if you installed WordPress in a subfolder, let's say, but you want it to appear as if it's in the root, in the base of your website, and this is the root. Your baseline website address is your root, because you can't go any deeper. That's why you can't go below this point. Whereas each subfolder means you're going up a folder. But again, this is getting a little bit advanced and a tiny bit off topic. So, but anyway, bottom line, if you've installed it in a subfolder, WordPress in a subfolder, but you don't want people to see that folder, you just want them to see your website, your main website, that's what you do. Okay, but let's get rid of that now. Okay, so moving on, your email address, fine, that's completely self-explanatory. Membership, anyone can register. This depends on a number of different settings we're going to come to in a later video. But basically, WordPress has different types of users. Like I'm an admin user, of course. I administer the website, and there's different levels of users below that, including users who are mainly. Okay, for example, if you're going to force website visitors to register so they can place comments, And if you do that, it will stop comment spam entirely, almost entirely, but will also reduce comments a huge amount because most people won't bother registering. But if you choose to do that, they become members of your website. So they'll have much less access to your site than you as an administrator, but they'll still become a member. So basically, anyone can register, yes or no. That's what that means. Okay, and new user default role. We're going to come to this in a later video, so I'm not going to go through all these now. And obviously, you don't want the default role to be administrator. That'd be chaos and would cause any number of problems. Okay, so time zone. Well, I'm just outside London, so London's fine for me. So you just set your time zone. Okay, again, really self-explanatory. Date format, or you can customize it. If you want to create something more unique than the options available here. And also time format, pretty self-explanatory, or you can customize it. And if you want to get advanced, you can click through to the documentation on date and time formatting. WordPress offers a huge amount of flexibility and customization, and even something as simple as the date and time has a bunch of options if you really want to dive into that. So each of these day of the month, day of the month, the day, the month, etc., etc. There's all these different codes. So for example, these codes creates that. So if I wanted that specific format of date, I could take that, copy it, and put it there. But I'm not going to do that because, well, I could just paste it in. There we go. But that's fine. So I'm going to leave it as this default format. Okay, almost there. So week starts on Monday. Maybe it's a cultural thing. I can't think of anyone who would think that Sunday is the first day of the week, but maybe that's the case in sometimes. But for me, the week definitely starts on Monday, and Sunday is definitely a day not for working, ideally. Okay, so week starts on Monday, and site language, yeah, pretty self-explanatory. Actually, I'll change it to US for these demonstrations. So that's it, save changes, and we're done.